we're going to explain the Russian and Chinese weightlifting training systems. The Russian system was developed in the Cold War during the decades of the 60s and the 80s. Basically, the pioneers were Medvedev, Boroviev, and Chernak, which developed a systematic training methodology. It was evidence based and produces many world champions like Vasily Alexiev and David Rigert. And it was based on a systematic periodization emphasis, um, which they scientifically plan the training cycles to maximize strength, power, and techniques all simultaneously. And you can see a glimpse of what later would be considered the conjugate system. They had three basic principles, which were high volume base. 50% of the lifts were between 70 to 80%. They had load variability, extreme load variability, which proves 61% more effective than the linear periodization. And they have a strategic rep range on from 1/3 to 2/3 of the maximum possible reps of certain intensity. Let's put it, you have 72%, that's 10 repetitions, is either you do 3 or 6 repetitions on an increased number of sets. As I said, the methodology was variability, and they had like an exercise pool of 30 to 40 different exercises. They had a modern evolution on a block periodization system stated on with Isrin on the 212, with the concentrating load blocks with specific targeted adaptations. And they were three sequential block types: the accumulation phase, the transformation, and the realization phase. This enables multiple performance peaks within the annual training cycle, and this reduces the interference between conflicting physiological adaptations. The outcomes and insights of the Russian system: proven long-term development pathway, and with unparalleled record density in international competition. That's no discussion about that. The outcomes and insights: the variability, which proves 61% more effective than the linear progression. They had the broad exercise pool, and this enhances the technical mastery and motor learning transfer. And this system had a template adaptability beyond weightlifting. So you can use it on different sports that require rate of force development, power development. The Chinese system and philosophy, basically, it's gathered in 5 words: close, fast, low, timing, and stable. Uh, it's simplicity over complexity. You basically focus on mastering the foundational movements. Then you have to have a flawless technical execution. Perfection of the technique is non-negotiable. And this is a consistent technical model. They basically maintain identical movement patterns from novice through elite level athletes. The distinctive, the Chinese technical distinctives, the Chinese approach, basically, they have an internal rotation of the shoulder, which create a more vertical bar path. They always have tension on the back, and on the second pull, they initiated just centimeters below the hip crease, and this maximizes the vertical acceleration through the shoulder range. And the head position, the head is pushed forward in the overhead position to create counterbalance and maintain stability, which on the Western approach is the opposite, is external rotation. The tension on the back varies depending on certain relaxation and tension phases. This is to conserve the energy on the second pull position. The difference is that it's often initiated from the mid-tide, and the head position is basically on a neutral alignment. The priority number one for the Chinese system is the back squat, and every athlete minimum has to weight lift 200 kilos. If you cannot lift 200 kilos, there is no sense in increasing the load. The coach Fang prescription, he basically uses from 80 to 85 of the 1 RM continuum in 8 to 10 sets. You see, it's a lot of volume. The frequency is 2 times per week, at least, on high quality squat sessions, and the foundation is non-negotiable, as we already said. They have also a mandatory bodybuilding component, which the Russian system did not have. The Russian system saw it as an accessory work. They see it as mandatory, and they employ 1 to 2 muscle groups per every training session in regards of the main workout focus. And what they do is 6 sets to failure or boredom, and this will emphasize on hypertrophy and local muscular endurance. Here we have the key muscles on the upper back, the lats, triceps, obliques, the core, and they prioritize stability and injury prevention. And what's the rationale behind this is to build tissue capacity and structural integrity to support extreme loads in competition lifts. Basically, the training volume and exercise selection, they already have 344 catalog exercises, but they basically just do 3: snatch, clean and jerk, and squats. And they train 6 days a week and sometimes multiple sessions per day. We have a comparison of the Russian and Chinese system. The philosophy of the Russian is a scientific approach with complex periodization and emphasis on variability. The Chinese system is simplicity and technical perfection: close, fast, low, time, and stable. The exercise selection for the Russian, from 30 to 40 different exercises. Chinese, 3 main lifts basically, with minimal variations. The intensity of the Russian system, from 70 to 80%. This is 50% of the total volume. The Chinese, they have a higher average intensity, from 75 to 85. This is with more consistent loading patterns. The Russian system, the squat emphasis is important, but balanced with other exercises program. And the Chinese, this is the absolute priority. Minimum 200 kilos. On the Russian system, as we already said, the bodybuilding was optional or correctional. On Chinese, is mandatory. The variability on the Russian system is extreme, and this proves 61% more effective than linear progression. On the Chinese, is controlled and deliberate. They focus variation in the aim of technical mastery. And that periodization for the Russian basically is a classic linear, but they evolved to a modern block periodization like the Isering model. And the Chinese system is shorter focus blocks with consistent technical emphasis through the phases. The key similarities: high frequency training and deliberate practice, scientific approach, technical mastery is non-negotiable before loading progression, and long-term athlete develop orientation with multi-year planning horizons. The integration of opportunities: you can combine the Russian variability with the Chinese technical clarity, and this can get optimal adaptability and precision. You can use the training block system through the competitive cycles, and you can prioritize squat development and a higher pool of exercise. But you can prioritize squat, and you can implement data-led adjustments based on individual athlete response. This is to a specific training variables. What's the evidence of the weightlifting improves performance? It improves more than 7.7% vertical jumps against control groups, increases 5.1% on vertical jumps versus traditional training systems, and it's equivalent to plyometric training. There were no difference, and this is a high consistency in results. That was on the British Journal of Sports Medicine. The load prescription by objective that you can do, speed strength, it's more speed than load, so you use 30 to 45%. Maximum power from 70 to 90%. This is the optimal zone for the peak power output. This can enhance the rate of development, the power, the strength, and basically some components of the maximum technical power. The strength speed, load over speed, basically, this is 100% or more. The super maximal loading using basically partial movements, and this helps to develop force production capacity and neural drive, but this is much more used in advanced athletes. And the technical mastery, using from 50 to 70%. It's heavy enough, but allows you to do proper mechanics, but light enough to do a multiple quality repetitions, which is very important to develop technical mastery. How can you use that on a sequential block approach rather than simultaneous training qualities? Because the sequencing minimizes the interference of competitive adaptations. On sport specific applications that you can use for like mixed martial arts, you can use power clean for explosive takedowns and clinch control, the hang snatch for generating strike power and rapid torso rotation, which is very important in every combat sport. Basically, for NFL football, you can do clean variations, and this is for the offensive and this defensive line explosiveness. And you can do snatch pulls for the running back acceleration. For basketball, you can use hand clean to increase the vertical jump and rebound power. You can do front squat for landing stability and the change of direction. You can also do some plyometrics. And on track and field, you can use power snatch for the sprinters, and start explosiveness, and clean pulls for throwers force production and transfer. Key takeaways and recommendations: two paths of the world-class results: Russian variability and diversity versus Chinese simplicity and technical perfection. You can adopt principles, not cookie cutter plans, and you can extract the methodology and fits that into your athlete and the context of your athlete, and always prioritize technique acquisition before emphasizes on heavy loading. You work the muscle, you don't work the load. The muscle and the neural drive is increased by technical mastery, not necessarily by load at the beginning. You can implement the block periodization to allow for multiple performance peaks throughout a competitive season. Sorry. And what I think it's future directions and final thought of this assignment is that you can integrate both systems based and depending on the athlete type, the sports demands, and the training phase that you are or the athlete are basically. and you can expand the sport specific research with advanced monitoring technologies and biomechanical analysis, as we read on the reading of this week. And you can individualize the programming, that depending on the feedback of the data and the response of the athlete. The best system is the one that your athlete will execute consistently, basically. Here are the references that I use for this for this presentation. So thank you very much.